So deep in one of America's fastest growing regions, there's this town, Garner, North Carolina. And if you just look at the numbers, it seems like they're doing something amazing with housing. But as we all know, a single statistic can be pretty deceiving, and this one hides a way more complicated story. So yeah, let's get into it. Here's the big question we're going to try and answer. We're going to dig into the data, break down what all the jargon means, and really figure out if this impressive number actually holds up for the very people who keep the town running. And here it is, 37%. A recent housing analysis found that 37% of the available housing in a key part of Garner is considered affordable. I mean, wow, in a country that's constantly talking about a housing crisis, a number like that sounds like a huge win, right? But the real story is always in the details.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with that big number, then we'll decode what affordable actually means in the policy world. After that, we'll look at who this housing is supposed to be for, uncover the real story hiding in the data, and finally, check out what can be done about it.
Right, so let's jump in with a 37%. It's not a fake number, it's technically correct. But here's the weird part. How can a town have so much affordable housing, but the people who teach our kids, put out fires, and keep us safe still can't afford to live there? Yeah, doesn't really add up, does it? To understand what's going on, we first have to learn the lingo, the language of housing policy. And honestly, this next part is so important. It turns out the word affordable can mean something totally different depending on who's saying it, especially when it's policymakers. So let's get super clear on the definitions. Everything, and I mean everything, in the world of affordable housing revolves around this one term, area median income, or AMI. Think of it like this. If you lined up every single household's income in the area from smallest to largest, AMI is the number smack dab in the middle. It's not the average, it's the dead center. And this number is the yardstick for pretty much everything else.
So here's how they use that AMI yardstick. Officials basically create different income buckets, from extremely low income, which is like 30% of that median number, all the way up to moderate income. Where your family lands on this chart determines what kind of housing help you might be able to get.
Now this brings us to a really crucial piece of the puzzle. Not all affordable housing is the same. You've got LBR units. These are what you probably picture. They have legal agreements, often funded with tax dollars, that lock in affordable rents for years, even decades. But then there's NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing. These are just regular apartments that happen to be cheap right now, maybe because they're a little older or smaller. The catch? There's absolutely no promise they'll stay cheap. A new owner could swoop in, renovate, and double the rent tomorrow. This difference is everything. Okay, enough policy talk. Let's connect this back to real people. Who are we actually talking about when we mention these AMI brackets? All right, let's take a firefighter. Based on the average pay in Wake County, a firefighter with a family of 4, their income puts them in that 30 to 50% AMI group. This is literally someone running into burning buildings to save people, and their family needs a stable, affordable home.
Or what about a preschool teacher who's a single parent with 1 kid? They're in the exact same boat. They also need housing that's affordable for someone in that 30 to 50% AMI range. You know, these aren't some fringe cases. These people are the absolute backbone of a community. These are the folks we rely on every single day. They're our neighbors and our friends. So the big question is, does that 37% statistic actually mean anything for them?
And this is where it all comes together. Let's take what we now know about AMI, about LBAR and NOAA, and about the needs of our essential workers, and let's look at the actual data from Garner. So, of those 312 affordable units in Garner, a massive 201 of them, that's 64%, are those unstable, at-risk NOAA units. Only about a third of them have those long-term, legally binding protections. So, right off the bat, you can kind of see that the foundation of that 37% number is a little shaky. But wait, it gets even more specific. And boom, here it is. This is the heart of the whole issue. Remember our firefighter and teacher? They, and so many other workers, need housing in that 30 to 80% AMI range. But look at the data for Garner. Every single one of its 201 NOAA units serves households earning less than 60% AMI. There is nothing, zero, market rate affordable units for anyone in that 60 to 80% bracket. So a slightly more experienced public servant, or a family with 2 moderate incomes, they're completely out of luck. So here's the bottom line. That 37% number, it's kind of an illusion. It's counting units, sure, but it's not looking at the type of units or the specific incomes they serve.
What we have here is a huge mismatch between what's on the market and what working families actually need.
And this isn't just a Garner problem. The town sits on a planned commuter rail line. Now, new transit is great, but it almost always makes land values shoot up. That puts even more pressure on that fragile NOAA housing, and it threatens to make this affordability gap even wider across the entire region.
Okay, so if the numbers are misleading and the problem's only getting bigger, what's the solution? Well, the good news is people in the region are already thinking about this and have some strategies to tackle it head-on. The Wake County Affordable Housing Plan basically lays out a three-part strategy. First, change the rules of the game. Use things like zoning to just make it easier to build affordable housing in the first place. Second, get creative with money by combining public funds with private and nonprofit dollars to get more done. And third, find new dedicated sources of public funding because you need that money to bridge the gap between what a home costs to build and what people can actually afford to pay.
But at the end of the day, no one group can fix this alone. As one report puts it so well, the answer really boils down to one word: partnerships. You need the local governments, the developers, the nonprofits, and the community all rowing in the same direction.
Which leaves us all with this final question to think about. Growth is coming, and that's an exciting thing. But it also forces us to ask what kind of community we really want to be. Are we going to make sure there's a home for everyone, including the very people whose work makes that growth possible? The answer is going to shape our neighborhoods for a long, long time.